How's it going, everybody? It's Riley's Red Zone. Welcome back to the channel. It has been a while since the NFL draft, in fact, since a video has been put up here, but welcome back, and I am returning for another season of weekly NFL picks. Now I'm going to start straight up. It's already Sunday. Games are starting in about an hour and a half for me. Things are going to be very busy this year, and so I will say up front, specifically in this video, the graphic packages are not ready yet for this season. It might not be all the lights and shows to start this year, but we are back for another season, so we're going old-fashioned, just straight up me talking for a bit. So I hope that's all right with y'all for now. And we're going to dive right into what this season is going to be. I'm excited. The plan is even starting next week. We're going to get guest pickers on. I'm hoping to get them in person a little bit more this year, and we're going to have a great season here. So despite me having a busy schedule and a lot of other broadcasting things outside of this YouTube channel, we are back for another season. So this is also a chance for me to talk about these teams in the season perspective, any of the off-season changes since the last time you guys would have seen me on the channel, and so this may be a longer one, but I'm going to break down every week one game this week, as well as what I think of some of these teams. Now, as a reminder to anyone who is new to the channel, I straight up pick who I think is going to win the game. I may talk about the spreads to put in perspective who is favored in the matchup, and I will say if I pick an underdog, but we are straight up picking who wins the game. Now, obviously, with me starting on this Sunday here, two games have already happened. I was going with the Eagles and the Chiefs, which means that the Eagles did beat the Cowboys. That's one win for me, but the Chargers did take down the Chiefs. There was a gut feeling the Chargers would take that one, but I had the Chiefs too high in my rankings to really go away from that, but they did take the L against the Chargers. So I'm 1-1 to start the season. And so that's where we're at the moment. I've been around 60% over the last few seasons overall on the year, so we're hoping to continue that and do a little bit better this year also. So let's talk about the games that, for me, are happening today, starting with the Raiders and the Patriots. These are two teams that are expecting a step up this season. The Raiders, I think, are going to be very fun to watch now that they have Geno Smith and Ashton Genty. Brock Bowers is incredible, and then they bring in Pete Carroll. I think that means they're going to be a little bit competitive, but that AFC West is absolutely stacked. So I think it's going to be difficult to compete, but they're going to definitely pull off some upsets or kind of magic games this season. Meanwhile, the Patriots, I'm not going to lie, I think there's a lot of hype around this team that I'm maybe going to slightly pump the brakes on, but I do think there's going to be a big step up from Drake May this year, and they are as well going to be pretty competitive at times, especially with the new regime and all that is changing in there. And so at home for week one, these are two teams I have in a very similar tier. I'm going to go with the New England Patriots, which is the pick that is favorited at the moment. Next, we're going to go Steelers-Jets, and how about this? We got the Aaron Rodgers, who used to be on the Jets, and then Justin Fields, who used to be on the Steelers, facing off at quarterback. Should be a great game. I still think Aaron Rodgers could have a little something left in the tank. He's not going to be what he used to be, but I do think that the Steelers still have some upside this season, specifically because I believe they still have a really, really strong defense. That steel curtain is very much still present. The Jets are similar in the fact that I think their defense is very, very strong, but Justin Fields is going to be the question mark, right, as to what he's going to do at quarterback. On paper, I do think the Steelers are a better team, but when I was going through my picks this week, I kind of have a little bit of a lack of upsets, only a couple, and so I want to take some swings at the board. And also, I always, whenever a team is at home and they're not too far away from the team who's on the road, I will maybe give them the edge. And so I'm going to go with the New York Jets here. This may be the worst pick of the week. We're going to have to find out. It may look like a genius if it happens, but I'm going to go with the New York Jets over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Dolphins, Colts. The Dolphins, every year, it's just they're kind of in contention to be in the wild card, right? That's somewhat the expectation over these last few seasons, but can they take that step up? This year, they have a similar roster where I think this is a playoff caliber team at its best. I don't know how far they can go, but I'm not counting them out. Indianapolis I don't think since the draft video, I've really talked about the quarterback situation. They're going with Daniel Jones, which is very interesting. I think that for Daniel Jones, that's great for him, but it's tough to give up on Anthony Richardson. Yeah, maybe he wasn't the guy, but you're already moving on from is definitely a tough look there. I don't know if he'll get back in the saddle at any point. It's just at that point, the confidence has to be broke, kind of. to me in the Colts organization, and I don't know what you're going to be able to get for him at that point unless we have a Bryce Young situation from last year. That could be the case. Well, with that, I'm shocked that the Colts are favored in this game, truthfully, and so I'm going to go with the Dolphins straight up, even though they're on the road. I'll take Miami in this Week 1 matchup. The Cardinals and the Saints. Cardinals are another team that I've liked for a number of years. Kyler Murray always keeps them competitive at that quarterback spot, but I just don't know if they are going to take the next step up. We've been hoping they can. I think their roster is one of the better ones they've had in his time there. The Saints, meanwhile, they're going with Spencer Rattler at quarterback. I'm just going to put it bluntly. On paper, this roster does not seem incredible. It's going to all depend on what they get from that quarterback play. And for now, I think the Saints are going to be just trying to squeak out wins, but I imagine that it's not going to be a super easy year 1 for Kellen Moore, so I'm going to go with Arizona in this Week 1 matchup and go with that for now. Giants and Commanders. Russell Wilson's on the Giants now. He's a starting quarterback. They've got Jackson Dart behind him. Their roster is decent. I think it's going to be a step up from last season. It's going to be Kenny Connect with Malik Neighbors. The Commanders, I think, will take a step down from last season. Despite some additions in the offseason, I think that they're not going to quite be that ultimate dog, if you will, but I do think they're going to have a very good year. And I easily should expect them to make the playoffs and be in the mix here. But I think it's defensively to me where I think they'll maybe not quite be as strong this year. Despite that, I'm going to take them against the Giants in Week 1. I do think this could be a really good game. But for now, I'm going to go with Washington in this matchup. Panthers and Jaguars, the Cap teams, battling it out. The Panthers, I mean, it was great to see Bryce Young take a step up last year, right? And I think that they can move forward with him a little bit more confidently than they could going into last season. But I don't think the roster is at a point right now, despite I like them going and getting Tat McMillan. I just don't know if it's at a point where they can really compete at the moment. The Jaguars, is Trevor Lawrence the dude? That's the big question. He hasn't really performed up to that number 1 pick potential that we knew he was coming out of Clemson. But they're going to need to make something happen now that they've got a whole new scheme and everything. I think that they could make some magic, but I'm still a little hesitant on the roster looking at it. I do think going up and getting Travis Hunter was a fine move. He can really be a difference maker. I'm going to take Jaguars in this Week 1 matchup, but I think those are two teams that are almost treading water, and I'm interested if either team of the Panthers or the Jaguars can really break loose and make a difference this season. Bengals and Browns. The Bengals, it's okay, the offense is stacked, right? They even sort out the Trey Hendrickson situation defensively, which is great for them. I think they're going to be competing again. It really just is always, which has been the case for the last 5 years, can the offensive line stand up, and then can the defense make some moves? That's really going to be the question for Cincinnati. And so I'm going to go with, against the Browns here, I'm going to go with Cincinnati. The Browns defense has still some potential. Flacco, I think, is the best guy right now in that quarterback room to start this game. But there's just not the upside. I don't think they're going to be super competitive this year. As they look forward, I imagine we'll see Shedeur or Dylan Gabriel by the end of the season. But for now, I'm going to take Cincinnati in this Week 1 game. Bucks and Falcons, Tampa Bay and Atlanta. I'm telling you what, folks, I went back and as I was putting together these teams and ranking them and really getting an idea of what I think of these rosters, I like Tampa Bay a whole ton. I mean, this is now, even with Baker, they've been able to get their name in the postseason conversation, and I think that this defense is still pretty impressive, takes a step up this year. I have them as a top 10 team this year, and I really think that in the NFC South, I think it's Tampa Bay's to lose. So with that, obviously it's going against the Falcons, but we're talking on a week-to-week basis. Atlanta's going to take a step up. I think they're going to play better with Michael Penix. I think they should be fighting for a wild card spot is probably about the best way to put it. I don't think that they are necessarily ready to be that at the moment. I think that should be a goal for them. I think they're going to be in the middle of the conversations this year. I do think there will be a lot of momentum, though, going into next year that they can really step up. But despite that, I think there will be some games this year, that they can make an impact. This week, though, I'm taking Tampa Bay. As mentioned, I really like this team. They even load up with Egbuka as well at receiver, so now that offense is just stacked. If their defense can perform, as their guys are aging concerns me, but if their guys such as Levante David, they bring in Hassan Reddick, if that whole crew can still play really well, I like Tampa Bay this season. Tennessee and Denver. The Titans, you had to go with Cam Ward. I love his potential. I think that, though, this season, the roster around him is just not quite ready yet, in my opinion. And so I'm excited to watch Cam Ward. I think he's going to make some games for them, but I don't know if this team is really up there. I have them in like the bottom three still at the moment. Meanwhile, Denver, gosh, they got Kansas City in that division, but they are going to be really fun to watch this year and a force to be reckoned with, in my opinion. I think Bo Nix is the guy for them, and they're going to look to carry some momentum from last season. So week one, give me the Denver Broncos over Tennessee in that game. San Francisco and Seattle, NFC West battle. That just rhymed right there. The Niners, they have Brock Purdy. I think they're going to take a step down this year. I do. I think they'll still be in the playoff contention. But I just think the defense is where I'm a little bit concerned in terms of, I think their secondary isn't quite what it used to be, and that's where I'm overall looking at probably some weaknesses being there. I still think, though, with the experienced coaching staff they have, with Brock Purdy now been in the dance a few times, at least historically, he's played in some big games. I think that they're going to still be in the mix. Seattle is in a similar tier to me. I think, once again, as in all things in life, pretty much ever, the answer is somewhere in the middle. I think that Sam Darnold this year is going to play not as well as he did last year for Minnesota, but not as poor as he did in some of those other situations. So I think he's going to be a competent quarterback. If you were to put a Madden rating on him, I think it's going to be, between like a 77 and an 83 type of thing. Like, it's going to be a pretty good quarterback to where if everything around him works, he's going to do well. I still, looking back at it, I think it was smart for Minnesota to let him go. For Seattle to let go Geno and go get Sam Darnold, I don't know about that long-term move, but now they have Jalen Milroe behind him too, could be the future. That could be interesting. I like them going and getting Cooper Kupp. Obviously, they swap it out, though. It's no longer the days of Metcalf and Lockett, which feels so weird. I think this team's going to be pretty good in Seattle. I think they're a little bit being slept on right now at the moment. I think they get this week one matchup win over San Francisco, and that's a really tight game, right? I have the Niners even ranked ahead of them, but because Seahawks are at home and they're really close to San Francisco in terms of my rankings, I'm going to go with the Seahawks here. Okay, Lions and Packers. I want to talk about the NFC North a little bit. We got two NFC North matchups this week. I think this may be the best division in football in terms of their potential. I think you obviously look at the AFC West being right up there as well. But I'm telling you, folks, I think that this division is going to be absolute cinema this season. Just to give my thoughts kind of on all four, as we're going to talk about the Vikings and Bears later. The Lions, after what has been a great few seasons, I do think they take a step back this year, losing their coordinators, losing some pieces, but they also gained some in terms of the roster construction. In terms of pure roster, I still have them in the top 10. I have them in the top 6 right now in terms of it, so they need to be competitive. You still have Dan Campbell, which is the core of what made all of that work, but I do think that the division has gotten a little better going into this season, and as mentioned, you lose some of those contributors, I think could certainly make a big play there. The Packers, they go out and get Micah Parsons, right? That's the big storyline over this last few weeks, really. Everyone's kind of acting as if now they've got one of the best defenses in the league and that they're really expected to take this big jump. I'm going to be honest, folks, I currently actually even have them ranked as the lowest in terms of the roster of the 4. But the thing that makes them electric, though, is Jordan Love. Now when you take a look at the grand scheme of the division, he's good with Jared Goff as being the second most experienced quarterback. So I think that's going to upgrade them a little bit, but I think pump the brakes just slightly on the Packers. I think they'll be in the wild card race again, but as this division is going to eat each other alive, I don't know what it's all going to look like. I don't know if Micah's the savior. I think he's a certain big help that if this team really takes a step up around him, he's the difference maker that really could push this team over the edge. But right away, I think they're going to need some development from some other people. With all that being said, I'm going to take Green Bay in this week 1 matchup over the Detroit Lions. Two teams neck and neck somewhat. Actually, I actually do have the Lions somewhat higher here. But I do think with it being at home, is kind of the difference maker, as well as I just mentioned. I think the Lions aren't going to be quite the same this year, but they're still right in the mix. So for now, I'm going to take the Packers, which are the favorite, which is very intriguing. But I think that those two teams are both really, really talented going into this season. I'll jump back to the Vikings and the Bears later, but let's talk Texans, Rams, Houston, and Los Angeles. I love both of these teams, man. Going into this year, I think they're both maybe even a little underrated right now. I think C.J. Stroud and them are going to run it back in Houston and probably take a big step up. How I kind of, to go into the season, picture all the teams as I rank their offense and their defense, and I kind of balance to where they meet in the middle, right? And for the Texans, I have their defense towards the very, very top, and this offense is C.J. Stroud I'm confident in, but I think that no matter what, they have some good pieces around him. The Rams also do. I mean, their offense, to me, is what is the strength for them. Offense is really incredible. I'm excited to watch Davante Adams receive some passes from Matthew Stafford. That's going to be great to watch. Their defense, as I have been over the past few years, always looks a little worse on paper than it truly ends up being. So despite them maybe being a little lower in their defense rankings for me, I have a lot of trust in this team, the coaching staff, and their ability. And so I'm going to take them in week 1, but I'm telling you, don't sleep on the Texans this season. I was high on them going into last year. I think that they might take another step up this season. And so I'm going to go with the Rams in this matchup, but two really, really great ball clubs right there. And you want to talk about two really, really great ball clubs. This is the game, folks. I can't believe this is on the week 1 slate. This is just incredible. Baltimore and Buffalo. Are you kidding me? I think that you can make a case. I personally have it this way. I have those two as the top 2 in the AFC. I have Baltimore, Buffalo, and Kansas City, 2, 3, 4 right now in my rankings, at least going into this season. And so Kansas City might drop with the loss last week, but I've got them all up there. I think this is a chance for either one of them to take the throne. Baltimore and Buffalo, I do have Baltimore ranked 2, Buffalo ranked 3rd, but at home, week 1, I don't even know how to really summarize these two teams because they're just both incredible. I think these are Super Bowl contenders, both of these sides. Lamar Jackson is an MVP contender again. Josh Allen speaks for itself. I think neither of these teams really looks to regress from last season. If anything, I think they'll take a step up. I mean, I'm going back through the rosters, and you almost forget how stacked some of these teams are. So I'm really interested to see that. But I am going to go with the Bills at home. This is considered an underdog pick, as the Ravens are favored by 1.5. That was part of the reason, too, I'm going here. That makes it 3 underdog picks. There's going to be probably more, but you can't pick all the favorites to even have a shot, right? So you could play it safe and do that and end up, 10-6 every week. But I like to swing for the fences a little bit here. This doesn't feel like a big swing on here. I'm honestly still, once again, shocked. I mean, it's not by much, but Baltimore's really, really talented. I think even if it were a playoff game, I might take Baltimore here. But this time, I think Buffalo gets it, and we'll see how it's done. Well, let's wrap it up with the Monday night edition, the J.J. McCarthy era, ready to begin in Minnesota. Meanwhile, Chicago is really, I think, going to take a step up this year, folks. I think this team is stacked on paper. You get Ben Johnson, so I'm always hesitant with a first-year head coach with that new team if they're really going to be all that. But every year it feels like there's at least one team that does it. What's really tricky is I talked about the Lions and the Packers. I think that those two teams are stacked. So this division might eat itself alive, which is concerning because you're not going to get all these teams in the playoffs, which is really, really kind of sad to me because I think that these are some of the most talented football teams in the NFC. I really just don't think there's going to be a world where it's possible. There might be a world where only one gets in outside of the division winner, right? Depending on how these other teams do it. But Chicago, I mean, it's all going to depend on Caleb a little bit, but this team on paper to me is really strong. Plus you get that new energy with Ben Johnson. I really like the Bears this season. In terms of the pure rankings, I do have them 3rd in the division right now. But if I had to give a take, and I mean, I don't like to give super hot takes in terms of what could go back here, but I think that the Bears could end up 2nd in this division. And the team that I think is going to be 1st on paper in terms of the roster is Minnesota. the entire season rides on J.J. McCarthy. But here's my perspective on this. Now, for anyone that does not know, I grew up in the state of where the Vikings play. And so I certainly was very familiar with this team growing up, and I probably over the years have been most in tune with what they've done. But I truly think that outside of J.J. McCarthy, this is a top 5, probably top 3 roster, debatably. I mean, it's definitely in the top 5 roster in the league. I mean, they go out and they just even get, in my opinion, a little bit better this season, whether you talk about the upgrades on the defensive line, or even, I don't hate them giving up the pick they did to go and get Adam Thielen while Jordan Addison's out. I think that the team is really, really incredible for Minnesota. I do think straight up their record is not going to be as strong as it was last year with Sam Darnold. I don't think that record is going to be as good, but I think they're going to be a better football team. But obviously that all depends on J.J. McCarthy. But I look at J.J. McCarthy as the fact that if Sam Darnold could get it done, I don't know if McCarthy's going to get the numbers Darnold did in terms of the touchdowns, but I think that all he has to do is play point guard in this offense, and I think that he can do that. What's going to be fascinating is they have him on the rookie contract. If he hits, this Vikings window has just reopened for Minnesota after they had it for a little bit. They lost it, in my opinion, and then they kind of instantly got it back. It didn't really take much time for them to get right back in the conversation, but I do think they're a talented team this year, and so I'm going to take them week 1 on the road. This one does break my formula a little bit because I don't have the Bears too far behind Minnesota, but I'm going to week 1 say that the Vikings set the tone in the J.J. McCarthy era and get a win, but that is going to be a team to watch this season. So those are my week 1 picks. Hope you enjoy. You're likely seeing this on the day that the season starts here with this Sunday. I hope you enjoy the games. As said in the beginning, hopefully the graphics will eventually work their way back here. We'll have guest pickers in the future as well. But for this week 1, we're going pretty bare bones. Just wanted to make sure you guys get the picks, though, at least this week. So thank you so much for sticking along as we return to the channel for this fall. I just have to say it again, once again, I've got a lot of things going on at this point in life, and so I don't know how much on the regular we're going to be able to get it out, but my hope is that weekly picks stay, and let's ride. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will catch you guys next week. Enjoy all of the games in week 1, and we'll hope to see you in the next video.